Hey, what's going on? This is Ugo Opara, real estate agent and real estate advisor and investor for Philadelphia and a bunch of areas around it. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the steps to prep to buying a house, right? And when I say house, that also falls for, a condo, um, a townhouse, a small apartment building, whatever it is. This is going to get you where you need to be in the shortest amount of time, and this is based on personal experience as well as professional, right? So the very first step is you have to completely commit to buying. There should be no doubt in your mind. You shouldn't still be questioning whether it's better to rent versus to buy. You shouldn't be, nothing should be in your mindset except, yo, this is what I'm going to do. And it's interesting because in my professional life, I've seen people who have the credit is where it needs to be. They have the pre-approval. They have the money in the bank necessary to buy. And we'll go through the process. We're looking at houses. They're excited. This, and that. And then when it's time to put the offer in, they're giving ridiculously low ball offers, 150 on a house that should be 200, and they're just wasting my time. You know what I mean? So after 2 or 3 months of that, I'm like firing these clients, and it's not their fault, but mentally they weren't committed to making it happen. They were like, if this works, great. If it doesn't, then whatever. As opposed to clients that I do work with where they're like, yo, there's no other choice. This has to work, period. I'm committed to making this work, period. And it makes it very easy because you don't have a plan B or a plan C. You just have a plan A, and you're 1,000% giving all the effort necessary to make sure that it works out. So you got to be completely committed. It's definitely a mindset thing. Um, Step two, you have to count your pennies, right? Definitely want to count your pennies. Get your financial house in order. I really, really hate when people, put on this whole facade of, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff, get into the house, and then forget about it. Like buying a house isn't something that you get in order, get in the house, and then you just forget about everything else. You let your credit become crappy, and you know what I mean? Like that's not really what I practice. It's not what I preach, and it's definitely not what I want you guys to. To kind of pick up on. I don't want that at all. But when you're buying the house, you got to really make sure that you do it all based on numbers, right? So what is your monthly net? Monthly net means after you pay all your bills, all your expenses, you've gone out to eat, you've done everything. What's that monthly surplus that you have at the end of the month? And if you don't have a surplus, then don't think about buying a house. We got to go back and create some type of surplus somewhere. Whether that means we got to cut back on stuff, right? Cut back on stuff. And if you're already at the bare minimum, then you have to now maybe pick up a second job or, sell stuff on eBay or garage sale, whatever you got to do. We got to start creating some type of monthly surplus, because you got to create savings somewhere. You got to pay for the down payment, which is your initial investment. You have closing costs, right? Such as your homeowners insurance, taxes. There's a lot of things that go into your closing costs that's separate from your down payment. And then you have other investments, right? You're going to test, you're going to have a home inspection, right? You want to test for mold, you want to test for radon, test for termites, you want to test for all these things, making sure the house doesn't fall apart as soon as you move in, right? So these are all the things that you have to have money saved in the bank to accomplish. And you're not going to have that money saved if you're consuming at a rate that's equal to or higher than what you're creating. So it's very important. You got to have that. You got to count your pennies and make sure that you change your financial house if it's not where it needs to be. Very, very, very important. A lot of people get stuck in this process, but I don't let people move forward until we get this figured out because that doesn't create longevity or it doesn't create a sustainable homeowner. And that sucks. I'm not about that life. You know what I mean? I never want to sell someone a house and then be called back to foreclose or do a short sale on that same house, right? Not happening on my watch. Third step, right? Assemble your team, right? On the right hand side over here, we have the Justice Leagues, right? And one of my and every time something happens and they have like a bad guy or a villain, they say Justice League assemble, right? And they all swarm together and then they take off to go kick the crap out of whatever bad guy or whatever the case may be. And this is what you have to do. I mean, so many times people come to me where they've already started the process, and I'm like, I commend them, like, man, you've come a long way, but we got to go back and do this. You know what I mean? We should have did this instead, or this is how this is going to work out. A lot of situations, people go and they pay off a lot of their credit card debt. Then the lender says, man, you shouldn't have paid that off. Now we have to wait this amount of time for it to, you know what I mean? There's so many things that could have been done differently. Um, where you definitely want to find a realtor and you definitely want to have a lender before you even really do anything, right? You want to make sure you have them on the team. After your financial house is in order, you go to these people for guidance. They're going to say, yo, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And if you stop and think about it, that makes the most logical sense. You know what I mean? If you're someone who's fat, you're not going to go to the gym with your fat friend. You're going to go to the gym with someone who has a six-pack ab. You know what I mean? You're going to go with someone that's already accomplished that, or who has a system where they're producing people with six-pack abs. And that's exactly what you want to do. You're doing all this stuff, everything you're doing in step two is so that the lender can look at you and say, yo, you're approved. Why not go right to the lender and say, yo, what do I need to do to get approved? There's really no need to make it more complicated. Go right to the horse's mouth, find out exactly what needs to be done as it pertains to your situation, and then work accordingly with that with your team, right? So find a realtor, find a lender, work together with these people, get pre-approved, and then we can move on to the next step. All right, very, very, very important. Don't wait till the last minute to add these two critical people to your team. Right, that's a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes it works out, but why risk it, right? One of the biggest financial things you're going to do, why risk it? Get your team together and then roll on to step four, right? And this is create your list, right? Create your list is pretty straightforward. Um, and everyone's familiar with it. Going off the things that you want versus the things that you don't want. Scoping out neighborhoods. Checking school districts. How far is it from commuting to work for you? How far is it from the people you hang around with, the places you hang around with? How far is it from family members if you want to be close to family members? How close is it to public transportation? Does it have parking? Is there a parking lot? All the kind of like the schematics, that work out for the location of the house or apartment building that you want to buy. And then another aspect of it, and this again, we're carrying that financial theme throughout because that's all this is. I'm a numbers guy, and the only way I look at real estate is through numbers, right? So you wanna the reason this is step four and not step one like most people make it is because you really don't know what the numbers are. Like you won't know how much you can buy and what you can qualify for until you've done step two, three. Until you've done step two and three, right? So now that you have your pre-approval, you may not want to spend that much, right? Like I had a client who was pre-approved for 250, a quarter mil, but she only wanted to spend $1,000 a month, right? So we definitely didn't look at $250,000 properties, right? So PITI, right? This little thing I have over here, I pity the fool. PITI, there are four components to any mortgage payment, right? You have your principal, your interest, your taxes, and your homeowner's insurance. So when you're putting together your list, you also need to be very mindful of how much it is you're comfortable spending monthly. How much it is you're comfortable spending monthly. Is it 900? Is it 1,000? Is it 1,500? Is it 2,000? And this monthly number is pity plus your utilities, right? So utilities, you got your gas, electric, water, right? Food you're going to put in the fridge, everything that goes into keeping the house up and running. That's also going to complete. That's also going to factor in capital expenditures. A budget for repairs, right? Something may not happen now, but you want to have that money in the savings so that when it does happen, you're not hurting. So in creating a habit of that is the best way I know. So budgeting for your monthly payment, budgeting for your utilities, and budgeting for repairs, this also has to be part of the list. What do you feel comfortable? What's that monthly number that rolls all these things into it that you feel comfortable paying for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 30 years? You know what I mean? And you're basing these numbers on your numbers now, your financial house now. I don't allow my clients to say, "Oh, well, we're expecting a raise." So no, we're not expecting anything. As this very moment, this is what we're going to buy the house based on. Because if that raise doesn't come through, or if that company goes out of business, or if that position that you were going to get a raise to, something happens to it, you're screwed, right? Let's focus on the now and work with the numbers and the income we have right now, right? And then another reason this is the fourth step is because a lot of times buyers are delusional on what they can actually get based on the market, right? Property Brothers I have down here because if you watch that TV show on HGTV, a lot of times it starts with the buyers making this massive list of all these things that they want, and then the real estate, one of the Property Brothers, they'll take them to the house that has everything they want. Everything they want is in this house, and they love it, and they're like, dude, where do I sign? And he drops down how much the cost is. And a lot of times it's 3, 4, 5 times what they've been pre-approved for, right? They'll be approved for 240. House is $1 million in order to have everything they want. So this is a very important step, but this step doesn't exist unless you've done all the other steps, right? You see the flow of everything. This doesn't exist if everything else doesn't fall into place. And this is one of the more important things because you start sewing together all the steps that we took before. You know what I mean? And once you get here, you have a very clear and idea of where you need to be. Um, and that allows you to move on to the fifth and final step, dude. Start your search, right? So think about that. Look at all the work we did before we even started looking at houses. All the legwork we did before we even started looking at houses. But now that because we've done the legwork, the process moving forward is very easy. The future is very bright because of the steps we've took before, right? And that's how it should be, right? You don't want to risk this thing. You don't want to waste anyone's time. You don't want to waste your time, and you don't want to miss out on a property that you really should have been in because you weren't prepared. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, a lot of real estate agents aren't going to tell you this stuff. A lot of real estate agents will start you at the fifth step. You know what I mean? They'll get you rolling because they want that commission check. That's how they make their living. That's how, that's how I'm keeping Sally Mae away. That's how a lot of people roll. But it's very important that you go through the financial rigmarole to get to this step, right? So let's talk about a couple things that you need. I want to make sure that you're doing when you're looking in these steps. Dude, get a notepad. Go in these houses and take notes of everything. Take notes of everything. All the questions that you have, take notes of it. I give all my clients a notebook and I say, yo, we're going to take notes on every property we see. And before we leave the house, we're going to talk about any questions that you guys have. If I can't answer them, I'll get an answer to you the next day. Very important, right? This little blueprint right here is also very important. You got to really a lot of people don't really get the concept of square feet. This is a 2-bedroom, 900 square feet home. It might work out as 900 for a 2-bedroom. However, a 3-bedroom that's 900 square feet is super small. That's not going to work out for a family of 3 or a family of 4. A 4-bedroom at 1,400 square feet is not going to work out. It's too freaking small. And the only way you really get a grasp of what it looks like is by going out and actually seeing it. And if you're not paying attention to that or taking notes, it'll pass you by. So a lot of times I'll tell my people like, yo, you want to make sure you focus on the square feet. If something is too small, let me know so I can exit out, right? If you see a house and it's too small, there's no point in going back and looking at houses of the same square feet. It's just not going to work out. Down here, this picture is actually, this picture is actually of a basement, right? When you go in the basement, make sure you look at the corners of the basement and see if you can see some water stains. In this area, Philadelphia area, and their surrounding counties, water intrusion in the basement, unless you have a brand new building, it exists. So making sure, even if it's completely renovated, right? I had a property where we had complete renovations. They finished the basement. It actually looked just like that. And within a matter of weeks, there was mold on the drywall, right? And the reason why there was mold on the drywall, one, there's not proper ventilation, and two, they didn't have the French drain around the perimeter, so water would come in, seep into the back of the sheetrock, and then sit there. And it's pure darkness on the other side. So when you have moisture, material, and darkness, dude, you're gonna get mold. So that's what they had in the basement. They got to gut it, redo it, and that's not a good thing. So make sure you're looking at that. I have that picture of Inspector Gadget. Go over everything. Open every door. Open every dresser. You know what I mean? Do everything you need to do. Yeah, you got to go through it. Not to say that you're going to become a home inspector. You still get the home inspection, but you just want to be as diligent as you can for your own curiosity, right? For your own curiosity. And that's pretty much it. We're hitting the 15-minute mark. I don't want to go over that. Again, my name is Ugo Opara, real estate advisor and investor serving Philadelphia and surrounding areas. Any questions, please give me a call, shoot me an email, drop me a comment, get in contact with me any way you can. I'd be more than happy to help you out. All right? Thanks.